Breaking travel news from across the world.
Breaking travel news, London, in Doha for the 70th AGM of IATA. And what's good about events like this, you meet people from all over the world. And now we're taking a look at the Pacific Asia region. Martin, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, good to be here.
So PATA, quick overview for those people who are not familiar what PATA is all about.
Pacific Asia Travel Association is 63 years old, or I would say 63 years young, because we now have a next generation mindset, which is what I've been trying to embed since I became CEO about 2.5 years ago.
How many years again?
2.5 years ago, October 2011, I took over in the middle of the great floods, and now we have different challenges in Bangkok, but Teflon Thailand nearly always bounces back, so we hope it does.
Teflon Thailand. And PATA itself is how old again?
63 years old.
What is frightening, it meant you started when commercial aviation was 33 years old or young at the time.
You're absolutely right, good mathematics. And the other thing that's significant is it started in San Francisco, and the two founders were a senior VP of Pan Am and the publisher of the Honolulu Advertiser, who realized they had a business self-interest to develop a travel organization that linked up all of the entities. And also, they'd both seen the worst of the Second World War, so they realized, as Mr. Tyler's just been saying in his speech this very morning, that we do, as an industry, a huge favor to the world economy and society by bringing people together, building trade and trust.
No doubt about that. So how long have you been involved with IATA itself?
This is my 12th consecutive AGM, and of course I've been familiar with IATA all of my career because I worked for aircraft manufacturers for over 20 years. So I've seen in those 12 years a major change in IATA's reputation and credibility and effectiveness, and long may it continue.
And in that time, a lot of changes when it comes to aviation, the pattern flows of passengers. We're here in the Middle East with 3 major airlines, all setting up major hubs in the region. It's tough competition for them, but even perhaps greater competition for airlines around the globe. So what's really happening in your region? How's it developing? How's it evolving?
Well, touching on what you've said about, of course, the 3 Gulf carriers here, they're doing a great job, and I think there's plenty of room for all 3 of them to grow because they're delivering an outstanding service, and most importantly, their governments are backing them. Whereas the myopic, lazy, exploitative governments in Europe, particularly I think of the UK government, do not respect the value that travel and tourism brings to the economy. And that's our job to highlight that.
Highlighted this morning by Tony Taylor. So Tony Tyler saying the fact that the benefits to the communities, the developing economies, is enormous by what aviation is bringing into those countries.
I mean, civil aviation basically facilitates everyone else to make good profits. It doesn't make good profits itself. I often say, bizarrely, when you look at civil aviation, risk and reward are inversely proportionate. I mean, what is the risk of running an online shopping service? Is anyone going to get injured? I was once told that the most life-threatening thing anyone in Microsoft had ever done was eat too much pizza.
Interesting. Okay, yes, an interesting angle to put on things. Now, when it comes to PATA, aviation is just one aspect of the organisation. You have the hotels, you have the tourism, inbound operators, etc. How important is airlift into your region for the industry itself?
It's absolutely essential. I was in the Philippines just 10 days ago. We had the pleasure of attending a conference that Talib Rifai had organised with the President of the Philippines in a place called Legazpi, and that had been affected by Super Typhoon Hainan Yolanda last year. And 98% of international visitor arrivals to the Philippines arrive by air. Sure. So it speaks for itself that if you don't have good air connectivity, the rest doesn't flow through to the economy. And one of my jobs is to constantly, hopefully, inform and perhaps entertain a little the different silos of the travel industry to realize we are really all in this together. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And the weak links are the ones we want to shine a light on. And sadly, they're often to do with security, with visas, the things that governments need to be more proactive and entrepreneurial about.
Something else highlighted here at the conference, governments need to do more regarding the responsibility of security and not put it on the airlines themselves. So what do you think, looking at this conference here in Doha, What would you like to see being the key message going out from this conference to governments and other partners in aviation?
We're the cavalry coming over the hill to save you. You all are running out of money. You have not yet figured out a way to have a 21st century revenue development model that recognizes that a lot of other industries, who perhaps should remain nameless, are running like a shell game economy. They're not paying a representative amount of taxes. They're not creating good quality jobs. They're not doing anything particularly for harmony for the world, but they're lining their pockets pretty effectively. So we know we're the good guys. The problem is we're too modest to tell anyone else.
And forums like this is perhaps the opportunity to lose some of that modesty and be a bit more outspoken and get the message out.
But I've said this at least 5 or 6 times at the last 12 years of the conferences. This industry is world class at talking to itself and still quite average at external advocacy. It's improving, and of course I commend Tony and his communications team. With the limited resources they do, they have a fantastic impact. But I think collectively, along with other groups like David Scousel, WTTC, with our other members of GTAC, as we call it, the Global Travel Association Coalition, there's 8 of us, we can all speak up and use our sharp elbows occasionally at events outside the travel and tourism industry. So now we go to all the major ASEAN meetings, we go to all the major APEC meetings, and this November we've been invited to actually run a program alongside the G20 in Brisbane. So that's what we should be doing. We need to get outside our comfort zone. This industry loves talking to itself because it's a sexy and enjoyable industry and you always like to see your friends, but that isn't enough.
A more dynamic approach by the sound of it. So Martin, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.